Right folks, you join us for a very exciting video. It is mid-morning on Friday and I'm driving 4 hours in the Discovery, towing my 2.7 ton rolling road. That's right, I've got my own rolling road, to Kent, to a friend's farm where we are going to have a weekend of fun, making as much noise as we want. We're going to try and get 5 cars on the rolling road, potentially do some tuning, I don't know, but definitely get some power run figures, get the rolling road itself tuned, calibrated and accurate, and I think we're going to have a good time. Let's get into it.
We're here to test out Loz's Watt Power rolling road. So we've got a little bit of a World Cup because we've got Japan, England, France and Germany. The Golf Supercharged Mark II Golf 1.8. Let's see how that gets on and we'll find out more about that later. Over here we've got pretty standard 2016 Mark IV MX5 1.5 litre Mini, Tom's classic Mini 1.3 A series engine in that boy. It's good, it's decent, we'll see how that goes. And the Chase Racing Clio from Brian and myself.
This was only the second car I've ever had on the rolling road and a first front wheel drive car on this rolling road also. Most of Saturday morning we spent messing with this one. It was largely a test mule for setting up the rolling road. We did a lot of ramp runs for a moment of inertia setup. It was a trooper, it just worked reliably in spite of all the test runs. He modifies and rebuilds vintage engines for a living and has been doing so for the last 15 years. So his attention to detail and thorough approach to stuff, or to anything really, is bordering on crazy. So this was a really well put together car. It's 1967, I think it started out as an auto. It's a 1380 now, very sympathetically modified with all the mods you would have had at the time. Period modifications. Anyway, the run. .93 horsepower, 83 foot-pounds, really solid fueling. You can see we've plotted lambda on the bottom half of the plot there. Solid fueling from 3.5 to 4,000 RPM up, and a little wavy below that. And you can see that coming out in the torque curve as well, has adding some little lumps and bumps in the torque curve for the first sort of third of the run. So Tom obviously knows his car, and there's a limitation really, I think, at full throttle, low RPM, there's not enough air being pulled through those carbs to give sort of decent fueling, so he feeds the throttle in. You can see him as we start the run, he very gently feeds the throttle in, so he knows how to get the best out of his car, and obviously a limitation of carbs, but for carburetors, really good fueling from 4,000 RPM up. Cracking result and a testament to Tom's hard work.
And the Chase Racing Clio, it's a full race prep Clio. All the shabazz in here.
Dave, you said shabazz, so I'll take over here, alright? This is Dave and Ryan's Renault Clio. I think it's their second shell, maybe third, and it's their 10th or 50th engine, I'm not sure. They get through a lot of engines. It's the F4R engine, I believe, the Clio engine. They've done a lot to it. They've developed this car over many years. They're very competitive, they're very fast, they win races. But I think in the early years, certainly they were hampered by some reliability issues. But yeah, they're pretty competitive in that. I think it's the Tin Top series. I'm sure they'll correct me in the comments. Cool car though. Sounded wicked with the open throttle bodies on the front there. Very powerful. Very, yeah, just really decent. I bet it's rapid. It's very light as well, I think. So this car here, we've done some power runs and we're measuring about 200 horsepower, and it's performing very well and giving nice consistent results, but there is no change when the VVT solenoid was switched off, so it was sort of confirmed the VVT is not doing anything, so we think there's quite a bit more horsepower to release. So Mike there under the bonnet is just testing, trying to switch the VVT on and off and seeing if he's getting a voltage reading. So if we can get that on, we're going to have to be quite gentle with the power runs because we're going to add a load more air, but the fueling will not be altered. So we're going to go lean if it works, and then we can do some more mapping with it. This blue line is the original torque curve of the engine.
And the red and the green line are the second torque curve of the engine after they found the ECU wiring to activate the VVT solenoid. And this yellow curve here is the lambda. So this is the fueling, and we've measured that down here around 3000 RPM the fueling was above lambda 1, which means it's quite lean. And then here at 5000 it's near lambda 1 and it needs to be a little bit lower there really. So the guys have done a bit of work on the map, and you can see the red line was their next attempt, so they're being very cautious with it, and they brought it down a little, and then the final attempt, which they're quite happy with, is this light blue line at the bottom. So this ill effect here is when Ryan the driver pushed the pedal down and there's a lot of enrichment fueling, so it goes rich, and then this is more like the stable state, the steady state fueling. So it's now pretty sweet. It's just around about 0.9, some dipping below 0.9 all the way up.
There we go, cam phasing working now. It's the same cam timing right the way through. It is a high performance camshaft and throttle body, so I believe that's why you're getting that funny effect between 4 and 5000 RPM. Everything comes on song then, the cam timing and all the rest of it, and probably the length of the throttle body trumpets as well, to produce decent torque from 5000 all the way to 7500 RPM, which is right where they spend all their time on the racetrack. So a great result, and a 221 horsepower matches pretty much the results they got from Northampton Motorsport, which I believe were between 220 and 225. A well-regarded rolling road, so I'm very happy with the accuracy of the machine, and their car is obviously, well, I think you'll agree, it sounds epic, very cool, and let's hope they continue to be very competitive on track. So one last thing before we get the Golf on the rolling road, we did a bit of a steady state at 7,000 RPM. We just had the car sit there against the brake. It was so cool. The brake works, the accuracy is confirmed again, steady state because there's no inertia effect. But here we go, the engine sat against the brake.
We've got a Mk2 Golf GTI. It's got a supercharger on it though.
So the same Tom that had the Mini and his friend Ollie, they put this car together. It's a track day sort of road legal car. It's got the original engine in it, but with some different cams. It's all been rebuilt, I think. And of course a big old supercharger, and I think there's an intercooler in there as well. It's using an Emerald ECU. So we didn't do any mapping on this car, but they did up the rev limit, as you'll see in the video, which frightened me quite a bit.
What power will it make?
So Tom and the Golf made 187 horsepower with this first curve, which drops off here. They then raised the rev limit 400 RPM and made 194. So the standard rev limit is 7,400. The first one had a rev limit at 7,000. You can see it drops off from 7,000, and then they raised it to 7,400. They've now raised it to 7.6 for the soft cut and 7,800 for the hard cut. I think he wants to see that 200 horsepower figure down here at the engine. I think it'll go a fraction over probably. Let's see how that goes. Here's the fueling, lambda, the power readout, roller speed, the RPM of the rolling road, and of course the torque readout, and the RPM is synced to the car. You ready? Go! So now the rolling road is measuring the losses through the drivetrain. 2,000 revs, I can stop it and it calculates engine power. 200! 200!
We did mess around, do a few more runs, and this is the last run of the day and the result. Cracking result from the Golf, 209 horsepower in the end. You can see it's a very nice flat torque curve. Be really good for road use. You've got plenty of torque, low down and traffic and so on. And it just holds it all the way up. So you can see why Tom was chasing higher and higher RPM, because every time you raise the revs, that power curve is continuing to rise. So he could go further and he'd get more power again, but how far do you take the internals of the engine? So there we go, great result from the Golf. Ollie kindly bought his MX5 as a test against the accuracy of the rolling road. It's very low miles, very young, and it's meant to be 129 horsepower and 110 foot-pounds. There we go, 128.5 horsepower, and yeah, it is bang on accurate. Right, we've got the Spitfire on the rolling road. This is Ian's mum's car. It's been in the family for maybe 20 years or so. It's going to make 75 horsepower in Ian.
I think so, yeah.
That's the bucket figure. So you're reckoning 50, was it, Ian?
I'm hoping for 60. Something.
60? Okay. I'm going to say 55. What do you reckon, Tom?
45.
45, very pessimistic. Has it ever been rebuilt?
Don't think so.
And how many miles has it got on it?
The original.
Well, 56 maybe? Yeah. So it's reasonably young. Yeah. You're seeing all the footage I got, unfortunately, so there isn't much. But we started out with 58 horsepower. You can see the green line is the power line, and the teal line is the torque curve. So not very much, really, quite a lot down on what it should have been. But we messed around. The lambda sensor told us it was lean, so we tweaked the carburetor a little bit and got more and more power. And then the lambda sensor kept telling us we were lean, to the point where there was black smoke coming out of it. So we definitely had a lambda sensor issue or a leaky exhaust letting oxygen in. But anyway, we did end up with 71 horsepower, which is a decent 12 horsepower hike on what we started with. So very pleased with that. Ian said the car felt a lot more sprightly afterwards as well. So there you go. You can see we have made more power by revving it. The red and the blue line going further up the revs, look. But there is no more power to be made, I don't think. The blue line has plateaued. But you can see a huge difference in torque between the teal torque line and the red torque line. So we definitely made improvements. It was too lean. Lovely little car, and that was it. I headed home after that. So that was the end of that weekend. We had a wonderful time. Good to see my friends. I only see them every few years or so. What a successful weekend. It was amazing fun. So this guy here, his name is Mike, and he's ridiculously clever. He works for a large automotive manufacturer in the calibration side of things, and he's so clever. I studied the software for this rolling road for about 4 to 6 hours before I went on that weekend away. And within half an hour, he was teaching me how to use the software he'd never seen before. He was a great help, and continues to be a great help over the last year or so of using the rolling road. So really, thanks a lot, Mike. And Tom also, who's the chap with the Mini, a very good friend of mine. He's been very helpful on the phone, talking things through during the restoration of this machine and the use of it, really. And then a great thanks to all my friends. There was 7 of us there. The chap who hosted, Ian, and the other 6 who came along and bought various vehicles. What a cracking weekend. Thank you all very much for coming and trusting me with your vehicles. I have spent a year using this now at various shows and things. If you want to see any of the videos I've put out, I think I've done around 25 so far of different cars. They're just short videos, an intro to the car, modifications it might have, what I think it's going to do, and then the power run, and then the results. And sometimes there's a little discussion afterwards, but they're never more than 2 or 3 minutes long. Then please go find them. I will put a link in the description to this video. The channel is called What Power, WOTPOWER. And if you search at on YouTube, I think it is at What Power, WOTPOWER without a space, then you'll find the channel. It's relatively new. It's growing quite fast. I'm pleased with it, but it's nowhere near as big as this channel. But it shows it's growing a lot faster than this channel did. So please go and check it out. There's loads of videos on there using the rolling road, and the more support I can get on that channel, the better. Thank you very much.